Hey guys, it's Faye from Solar Flow and I am back with a new video. Today's topic is an all new, all special Ask Me Anything. So this is your guys' burning questions and my channeled information and answers. What is the soul, spiritual, or energetic components that are comprising what we see playing out in the three-dimensional realm as it pertains to either physical manifestations of sickness or mental health as well? So if that sounds good, please stick around. And if you are new and that sounds like it's kind of your jam, in exploring and uncovering what is going on behind the veil with our 3D reality, then please subscribe. Now, before we get into it, I just want to remind you guys that this video is in no way, shape, or form meant to replace medical guidance that you are receiving from a medical practitioner. Please do not use any of the information herein for those purposes. However, if you want to explore what are the things that are going on behind the veil with either the ailments that you yourself have or that somebody that you know or care about has, then use this for those purposes because it will help you gain a greater level of understanding and clarity in why certain people get certain ailments and other people do not. And lastly, last bit of housekeeping, specifically for anybody that is new, but also for anybody that is not new here, you know that I do refer to my notes. And in this case, I'm going to, of course, be reading a lot more from my notes, and I'm going to show you why. This is the information that has come in. It's, as you can see, it's actually the majority of the notebook. Now, to be fair, it's not all channeled information that pertains specifically to this, because I do have information from my last videos in here as well. So that's the videos on Letitia Stouch and Natalie Holloway. There's also Ascension and New Earth that was in here. I also have 2 potential future videos that I'm still working on that is mixed in to this notebook. Because basically I don't have like different notebooks. I don't have like one notebook for AMAs and other notebooks for other channeled information. I like to keep things more in a chronological kind of, I skipped the last few pages here, but I like to keep things at a chronological order. So if I ever want to go back, it's easier for me to find things. Like I can go back to past notebooks and find things because I have like some general idea of what month or what season it was. So that's why I keep things together. So yes, I'm going to be referring to my notes. However, I'm just going to remind you that all the information herein is either channeled information or what was shown to me by my guides. So to that end, I really don't like to leave things out or change the content because it's not mine to change. Like this is divinely received information because I only connect to high vibe energies and to God's pure source energy. It's not mine to edit. It's not mine to take liberty with. And anytime I do, I always will let you know this is 2% of my own personal opinion. The rest of it is received by higher energies. So with that in mind, let's get in. Let's dive in. And of course, there's timestamps down below. Please feel free to jump around if you want to, but I also feel there's like a lot of goodies in here. So if you can, just watch it all the way through. Some of the information is longer than others. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's kind of the nature of how things go. And if you have any questions on any topic, please comment down below. All right, now let's get into it. So first thing that I had looked into is anxiety. This is kind of, I feel like, a hot topic. And I feel like as more and more time goes on, more and more of us are starting to manifest symptoms of anxiety. Super important, super interesting. And this is what was shown to me. Probably not a surprise. Anxiety is a deeply ingrained flight or fight response carried through from multiple lifetimes. Therefore, it is a remembrance of what has caused it, but it is not in the present life. It is only a fleeting feeling of it that remains. So what is anxiety? It's a feeling of disharmony or discontent in your body. It can literally come on completely out of nowhere, or it seems like it's coming on out of nowhere, or it can have a trigger that we can actually identify what the particular trigger is. But understand, whatever the trigger is, it's probably connected, it's a thread that has carried through from other previous lifetimes. It may not even be a trigger that is in this present lifetime. It could be, and understand that is also, if it is a trigger that's connected to this incarnation, it's the trigger is allowing us to see or have a better understanding of what we have not yet healed within ourselves, that trigger is still active and is still activated within us. So that is what anxiety is. It is the soul's remembrance of past traumatic events that have carried through from multiple lifetimes, and the residue remains in this current incarnation. And if we can follow the thread back through previous incarnations, through things such as past life regressions, which is going to actually be a theme coming up through so many different sections in this video, where I was shown that that's actually something that would be beneficial and helpful. But if we can actually follow that thread back through the various different lifetimes and heal what those unknown triggers are, the anxiety does go away. Again, if it is connected to something in this lifetime, that is an indication of where we have not yet healed a particular part of ourselves, and we just kept on keeping on without stopping to heal those traumas. Because once they are healed, the anxiety, therefore, will also go away. So that is what came through for anxiety. Please comment down below if you have any further questions on that. The next one is a super short one. This is on ADHD or ADD, which is attention hyperactivity disorder or attention deficit disorder. Now, before I'm going to actually share what had come in, I'm going to say that there is two that I know of, very, very real 3D things that can manifest as ADD or ADHD. So before we start jumping through hoops and trying to determine what the soul or energetic component is, let's first rule out what are the the actual 3D causes of it. There's two of them. So first and foremost, it is now coming to the light, and I'm sure many of you know this, that for specifically these two things, food dyes in food have been shown to cause attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity disorders in children. So first and foremost, if you have a kid that is extremely hyperactive, clean up their diet. Cut out anything and everything that has food dyes in it. Cut out anything and everything that has a tremendous amount of sugar in it as well, or added sugar. And I'm not like suggesting that you stop giving them fruit, because that's naturally occurring sugar. But if it's like a fruity cereal or fruity yogurt or anything like that, check the ingredients first and foremost. Now, the second thing that can actually manifest that has a very, very real cause of these two things is childhood trauma. And childhood trauma can actually manifest as ADD or ADHD. Not HGTV, ADD or ADHD. So perhaps explore, if it's your own child, what can actually be a trauma that they have experienced that can come through as these two things. Now, what was also shown to me about it, though, if it is neither of those two things, is that it is trauma-based. And it's a form of mental activity where the person is scanning for danger. So this kind of goes hand in hand and in tandem with what I had said about trauma. Somebody has endured a trauma, perhaps they've even blocked it out, or they just put one foot in front of the other, keeping on. But what will actually do is it is rewiring their brain, where they're constantly on high alert and they're constantly searching for external forms of danger. So that's why it seems like they have a lot of a lot of energy, because they constantly need to always be ready to like jump up and be on the go. But that's why they're also like, it can seem like their mind is monkey vining from one topic to another topic, because it is actually where they have to be mentally aware of all things that are going on around them as they are scanning for potential danger. So that is what I have for ADD and ADHD. ADD and ADHD. I don't know why I keep thinking it sounds weird, but please comment down below if you have any further questions on that. Now, the next topic that I was asked to look into is manic depression. Now, manic depression is, for anyone who is not entirely familiar with it, as I adjust myself here, it's where a person can manifest either the highest of highs, right? That would be considered like the mania. And they can also be conversely depressed. But it's not usually where they're exhibiting the symptoms in one day. It's more over a prolonged period of time. I'm not entirely sure how long it can be, but I think my understanding is that the symptoms can last for many, many days, or it can even last longer. It can last for like weeks, or it can last for months. And there are a few things that will, like there's a few notable things that will kind of come out when a person is starting to exhibit the signs of manic depression. And I think actually one of them is like where they won't sleep for days on end, which is like a very, very random one, I know. But anyway, that's what manic depression is. And this is what was shown to me about it. Manic depression is the opportunity for a soul to learn either moderation or to learn their true power. And here's why. So it was shown to me as a soul living completely out of balance, but through multiple different lifetimes. So for example, in one lifetime, it could have been somebody like a Henry VIII. And what was Henry VIII known for? First of all, his many different wives. Plus he had a harem. Plus he was eating so much and he had so much gout and he was so heavy and he was so living a completely unhealthy lifestyle. So imagine, if you will, the soul is hopping from one lifetime to another, but what are they choosing? The experiences that they're choosing to have, either as a soul contract, where it's not like, you know what, I'm going to sit this life out. I don't want to have it be too extreme. That last one was pretty wild. I want to have an easier incarnation this time, and then I'll have a harder one in the next one. It's like, no, I want all the lessons. Give me all the lessons. So in one lifetime, maybe they're going to be extremely wealthy. In another lifetime, they're going to be destitute, living on the street, a beggar. So it's kind of like, if you will, where there's no moderation in the experiences that soul is choosing to have, because they're hopping from extreme to extreme through various different lifetimes. Now, so this is a soul with no sense of an internal leveler. And the example that it was shown to me as is, you know, like if you're hanging up a picture, you have like those little levels, and you can, when you're getting ready to hang it up, if you have, let's say, like a picture that it needs 2 nails, one on each side. So you're going to tack that first one in, and then before you hang up knock in the second nail, you're going to mark it on the wall. But before you mark it on the wall, you're going to put the level on top, and then it's going to show you like, oh, is it a little bit higher on one side or the other? Now imagine, if you will, you had no level and you also didn't have any spatial perception. So you put like one nail here and one nail here. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a completely crooked picture. This is the same thing, where the soul has, if you will, no internal guidance system for what healthy balance feels like. But wait, there's more. It was shown to me that this also might be somebody that is prone to alcoholism, because they are not going to stop at just one drink. They are going to, if you will, drink out until they're blackout drunk. So this is very much somebody that needs moderation, and therefore, what better way to learn moderation in any particular incarnation than through living out of alignment? But it's not because of the external factors, it's because of the internal factors. Because without any soul understanding or sense of that, then it could just be like someone that's a ne'er-do-well, right? Like, I'm just not getting the breaks that I need in my life. I'm destitute. All this shit seems to be happening to me. And it's very, very easy for somebody that is living in a victim mentality to blame all of their problems on the external. So through perhaps the experience of somebody having manic depression, it is for them to understand that the power does not lie externally. It lies within. And that through the manic depression, it is giving them the opportunity to reclaim their power and to learn moderation through it. Yep, so it was also shown to me as a disempowered soul. So this is just kind of like, proving the point that in one incarnation, you can have somebody who is a Henry VIII type, or it can be somebody that is destitute and at the bottom of the food chain. So a person like that, that's at the bottom of the food chain, has to learn to persevere through the experiences in mastering themselves, and mastering themselves through learning about their mood disturbances. And to understand that their own true power comes not from external sources or the opportunities that are presented from others, but through mastering themselves first and foremost, or accepting themselves first and foremost. And to come to an understanding that they actually lack nothing within nor without. And to stop seeking the answers outside of themselves for their success or their lack thereof actual success. And one way to stop the search by themselves is being out of balance and learning to come back to themselves for their own power. So manic depression is the opportunity for the soul to learn their own moderation, but not in various different lifetimes where they're making the choice to have the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, but actually to have the experience of it in one particular incarnation so that they can more like, think of it this way. Okay, this soul is going to have another 10 incarnations of the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. They're going to be here for fucking ever. What better way to give them the opportunity to ascend than to give them the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows in one particular incarnation so they can master it, they can ascend, and they can move on. Because it is things like this that perhaps give people the understanding that we're in a fucking prison planet and people can't ever fucking get out of here. And it can sometimes feel that way. But you know what? Here, the soul is given the opportunity. Let's wrap this up. Let's get you to ascend a little bit faster so you can move the fuck on. So it is for both of these kinds. So it's either the people that are lacking the sense of balance, or to somebody that is lacking any sense of their own internal strength and power. It's for either of these kinds of people to come home, to come back to themselves when they are out of alignment, to remind them how chaotic life can truly be when all is not well at home. But in this case, what is home? Home is their own mind. And to tend to their own gardens before tending to their neighbors' gardens. So that is what I have for manic depression. I hope that answers your question. If not, please comment down below. I'm going to skip some pages. And, okay. The next one is depression. Now, this is kind of a long one. And depression, this is something that's going to come up a lot in this video. The words alignment and living out of alignment. So you're just getting the first little preview of it right now. Depression was shown to me as someone living out of alignment. They may not actually know what their alignment is and how they're not living in alignment, but they can sense that something is off. Oh, and for anybody that doesn't know what depression is where a person they can lose interest in things that used to be of interest in them before. It might not just be of like a professional nature. It can be like hobbies, activities, things that they used to enjoy doing, and then they seem to no longer enjoy doing it anymore or partaking in it anymore. It can also be where somebody can manifest symptoms of fatigue, where they're very, very tired, or where they feel overwhelmed by seemingly menial tasks. Again, I'm using the word seemingly menial, right? It could be something they've done week to week for 10 years, and then one day they're suddenly overwhelmed and they can't do it anymore. Okay. So again, what is it actually behind the veil? It is somebody that is living out of alignment. And while they may not know that that's what it is, they can very much sense that something is wrong. Now, the depressed or low energy was shown to me as being because this person has no energy for what is no longer lighting them up. So again, it could be a seemingly menial task. Why are they doing seemingly menial tasks week after week, year after year? It's sucking the soul life force energy out of them. And the feeling of being overwhelmed by life's responsibilities is because they have been devoting all too much energy to pursuits that are no longer aligned with them. So depression is too much incongruent things and not enough aligned things for that particular person. So the entire experience is designed to shut them down energetically so they stop doing what is no longer right for them. Now, depression is also, if you will, a dark night of the soul light. What is a dark night of the soul? It is where the person that is experiencing it has, over a prolonged period of time, at least that was my experience, how everything around them is so completely not right. And they may not yet understand what is not right about it, but it's because on a soul or energetic level, they are very much, if you will, like a butterfly. They are going into a cocoon and then coming out of the cocoon. But what happens when that caterpillar goes in? They come out metamorphosized. But that is over a long period of time. Depression is kind of like a lighter version of it. It's not, if you will, quite as extreme as a dark night of the soul, where a person could be completely metamorphosized, and where also the depression happens over a shorter period of time. But it can be the first soul crisis of sorts. But here's the thing. Our society has normalized depression, and therefore, conversely, has also normalized antidepressants, which shuts down our body's ability to communicate with us because we have become numb to what it is trying to tell us. This is very much by design. Because if we become in tune with our bodies, we'd actually obey, and we would rest when we need to or make the necessary changes when we need to. Because our society very, very much in the three-dimensional places our value in connection to how productive we are, how much we do, how successful we are, what kind of car we have, what kind of house we have, what kind of neighborhood we live in. Where do we shop? What's our clothing? It's in all of the 3D trappings. And how do you get all of those 3D trappings without joining the club? Through so-called hard work. So if you want to climb up the chain and you want to be successful, you better work, bitch. Right? Isn't that the way the song goes? So, antidepressants were actually brought onto the stage. This is fantastic, because through the use of antidepressants, we can power through and go back to being the productive members of society that feed the matrix. You want people to keep on keeping on. You give them the antidepressants so they can shut off what their body is actually trying to tell them, and you keep them stuck in a loop because of it. So the antidepressants effectively prevent us from making the necessary changes in our life, and effectively keep us keeping on. This is also why, for anybody that has been under antidepressants, you know this to be true. At some point or another, they're either going to raise the dose because it seems like it's no longer working, or they're going to switch you to a completely different medication altogether. And why is that? Because it is the soul's calling, bleeding through, and it is encouraging us to heed the call of our soul. But what do the good doctors do, not knowing that there's a soul component to the antidepressant? They will up the dosage, or they will switch the medication altogether. Look at it this way. Imagine, if you will, and this is a wild example. They tend to be. They have to be a little bit on the dramatic side so you can really understand what I'm trying to say here. Imagine there's a high school coach, and he is in his office trying to put together plays for the next football game. But while he's trying to put together the plays for the football game, the school band is out in the field practicing. So they're going through all of their little drum drills, and they're going through all of their different formations. And he's like, God damn it, it's so noisy, I can't get anything done. So he takes earplugs and he puts earplugs in. Because what do the earplugs allow him to do? It allows him to get the work done while there's all of this external noise. Now imagine, if you will, he's in his office sitting with his back to the door, and there's somebody that walks in, and the person doesn't know that he has earplugs in his ear. And this person is calling out to the coach. They're like, Coach John, that's funny, Coach John isn't hearing me. I better start speaking louder. Coach John. Coach John doesn't hear him. He's got the earplugs in. So now the person is full on screaming, Coach John. That is exactly the way that the antidepressants work. The antidepressants are like the earplugs in that are blocking out the noise from the external world. But what is the noise? The noise is that this person is living out of alignment. And then what is the person that is standing behind them screaming at them? It's the soul calling out to the person, trying to get their attention. But they're so tuned out because of the earplugs, or they're so numbed out because of the antidepressants. Now, what was also shown to me about specifically antidepressants and the doctors, again, many doctors, many of the psychiatrists, they do not understand the soul component. So this is, I'm not taking a shot at them. This is not like they're terrible, they're harming people knowingly. They were trained by Big Pharma. This is what they understand to be effective for people that are suffering with very real symptoms of depression. However, many doctors don't even exactly know how the medication works for each individual. They don't even know if it is going to work for that individual. There are, that's why these medications have warnings on them of what the potential side effects can be, because when you start getting into people's brains and messing with their brain chemistry, there can be very real side effects. Now, without a doctor doing a CAT scan or an MRI and in any particular person, they don't know what is so-called misfiring in that person's mind. Because our so-called understanding of the way that depression works is, without the understanding of the soul and energetic component behind it, is that it is brain chemistry, where there needs to either be more serotonin or more dopamine, and that is why the person is experiencing depression. But again, without a doctor getting in there and actually seeing the way that the brain is functioning and that the brain is working, how do they know what the actual problem is? They don't. It's kind of like they're taking very educated guesses. Again, I'm not taking a shot at the doctors who are genuinely trying to help. But the main purpose in the antidepressants is that it is designed to treat the symptoms, but not the actual cause. Cycle continues, because without that person making the necessary changes of what's actually causing the depression, they're just going to be on medication, numbing out what their soul is calling to them to wake up to. So it numbs out the real pain and the real path that the person is on because they are living out of alignment. Now, we have also been fed, and this might probably going to be a little bit, I'm going to try to temper the way that I was going to say it. The understanding that we have about what the cause of depression is a brain imbalance, or it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. However, research is coming out now that is showing that to be true in less than 1% of the population. The other 99% of the population, there ain't nothing wrong with their brain. What's wrong is that they are living out of alignment, and the depression they are experiencing is very real, and it is also very much connected to their current situation. Okay. Now, I'm going to mention a book here, and it's going to come up later on as well. It's coming up twice because I really want to encourage anybody that is perhaps suffering with depression to understand that this book may be helpful. And I don't remember the author's name. I don't think he's American, but the name of the book is called Lost Connections. And this book discusses what are the other causes that could be leading to somebody having depression that is not connected to their so-called faulty brain chemistry. There ain't nothing wrong with anybody's motherfucking brain. There's something wrong with perhaps the way that we are living, and that is what is causing the depression. So in the book, he gave this example of a guy that his job was mixing paint. Day after day, he mixed paint. But he couldn't leave because he needed the money and he had expenses. But it didn't light him up, and he was fucking depressed. He was not doing anything close to what his soul's calling was, and that is why he was experiencing depression. So, Lost Connections, great resource, highly recommend it. Now, with that in mind, I'm also going to touch upon what postpartum depression was shown to me as well. And then I'm going to skip a whole bunch of motherfucking pages so I can keep all the depression together. And I'm going to try to find the page on childhood depression as well. Because can the soul at such a young age be living out of alignment? We're going to discuss it. Now, postpartum depression was shown to me as postpartum depression was also shown to me as a person that is not living out of alignment. I know that sounds terrible. Don't jump ahead. Because obviously having a child is not living in alignment. But it's also maybe not accepting the massive changes that a person has undergone because of it. So postpartum depression is a person that is not living out of alignment, but to the massive changes that a woman has undergone. So it is where perhaps the woman is trying to have things go back to normal, so-called normal, or a semblance of normality, or a semblance of control that we felt we had prior to welcoming a new soul into our home and into our life. Now that is going to be compounded by lack of sleep, massive hormonal changes, changes in our own personal identity, familial identity, changes in our body, which society is yapping in our ear about, how we better lose that baby weight and fast, changes in our house, and the list literally goes on and on. If you've had a kid, you know. So this was shown to me as women that have, guilty of it too, but unrealistic expectations that we can power on and we can power through without mourning the parts of ourselves that we have lost by becoming a mother. Because we have lost parts of ourselves. You lose part of your identity of being a person in your own right. Then you're obviously going to have to stop working. So you lose whatever identity you have connected to your job or your employment. Your relationship with your friends is going to change. Your relationship with your body changes. Your body changes. Your relationship with your spouse changes. Your relationship across the board changes. There's a very, very real mourning process that a woman is going to experience when we welcome a new soul into our house and into our life. So the postpartum depression is getting us again to slow down and to surrender. Stop trying to be superwoman to everyone and everything. So the advice that new mothers get when we are told, you nap when your baby naps, is absolutely correct. Because your baby is not going to fucking know the difference or care if you were doing the dishes when they were napping or not. What your baby is going to care about is that when they are crying, and they need us, that we are able to be more present with them. So that is what was shown to me about postpartum depression. And of course, if you have any questions about that, please comment down below. I'm going to try to keep you entertained while I look for childhood depression as well, because again, I want to try to keep things together in somewhat of some kind of an order here. But as I'm doing all of this, I have many pages to go through. I hope I don't just get like frustrated and give up on it. I don't think I will. I'm looking at all the answers that came through from our last AMA. How's everybody doing, by the way? Are we having a good day out there? I feel like I'm coming to you from Antarctica. It's so cold here in LA. We have Indian summers. Here, I found it. I'm going to finish this because I just started talking about it. We have Indian summers, which means that our summer doesn't start until like really July-ish time. And then it runs through like November, December time. So when our, winter in LA kicks in, it's like December, January time. So it's completely normal to have like cold, rainy days in May, almost June, like it is today. So hence the sweater, and hence me talking about all of this while I tried to find childhood depression to keep you entertained. I found it. Let's dive in. So childhood depression was shown to me as where the soul is still very attached to their last incarnation, and they feel like a foreigner in this new incarnation, in this life. So imagine, if you will, someone that was abducted, and they are meant to live a whole new identity with all new friends, family, a new name, new likes, new dislikes, plus, because they were abducted, they are forced to change their appearance as well. This would cause a lot of distress. And to a child that is still very much connected to their last incarnation, being here in this new one causes a lot of distress as well. The soul has a remembrance, but the person itself doesn't have a remembrance of their previous incarnations. They only know that they feel out of place. So what was shown to me is that past life regressions may help. Getting out into nature, as it is a reset energetically, but medication is not wise, as it will non-verbally communicate to that child that there is something wrong with them, which will further compound the feeling that they do not belong. Okay, so childhood depression, it's not wise to medicate them. First and foremost, the brain is still changing at that point. But the administration of the medication to them will compound the feelings that there's something wrong with them. There is nothing wrong with them. They just still have a soul's remembrance to a previous incarnation that is coming through very, very strong for them. So validating their feelings, if you have a child that has childhood depression, validating their feelings that something is not right, maybe even doing like talking to them about like past life regressions. Maybe they talk a lot about like things that we can attribute to childhood fantastical imagination, but in fact is a carry through from that previous incarnation. Because children are still so fantastically connected to the other side that the soul's remembrance is very, very strong for them still. And there's been like through the years, I'm sure you can still find these articles online. There have been stories about like young kids, like 4 or 5-year-olds that talked about like being fighter pilots in World War II. I'm sorry, how would they even know about that? How would they even know about World War II? They're so young. How do they know about being a fighter pilot? it's because they have a soul's remembrance of that incarnation. So we really want to work with them on validating their memories, validating their experiences, and validating their feelings, and maybe even exploring past life regressions with them. So I hope that answers your question on childhood depression, and if not, please comment down below. Now I'm going to skip some pages because here's where I had channeled Tom Hanks. Okay. Now here's a question that had come up, which is about the lack of integration from Eastern and Western medicine. I'm sure this is not going to be a surprise to anybody. So, I'm taking up a lot of time here for no good reason. I was just trying to think how I wanted to formulate it and how to best say it. So basically, everything that the cabal does is for a particular set of purposes. And in this case, what are they trying to do? They're trying to maintain control over the population, maintain the flow of information that we have access to, and what we are allowed, I'm going to say the word allowed, what we are allowed to do with our own bodies and what we're not allowed to do with our own bodies. And that's why you will actually have a lot of Western medicine doctors that are going to tell you, under no circumstance can you continue to receive treatment from them if you're going to go off and do alternative therapies and modalities. Now, again, this is not to take a cheap shot at doctors, because they were trained by Big Pharma and the Rockefeller medical system. So all of their understanding that is connected to their medical training is a person comes in with these particular symptoms, this is how you treat them with this medication. They receive almost no training as it pertains to a lifestyle or nutrition or good nutrition or bad nutrition. Is this person getting all of the necessary vitamins and minerals that they need for their body to thrive? They are taught these symptoms get these medications. Do not deviate outside of those lines. So the lack of integration from Eastern and Western medicine is that by not entertaining the idea that Eastern medicine plays a role in healing, it is a way to deny the importance of it. The cabal, we therefore will not even speak of Eastern medicine the same way that they will perhaps approach natural herbs, which is to call it snake oils, right? So you go to your doctor and you're going to tell your doctor, well, actually there's these herbs that I'm kind of thinking about working with. It's been passed down generation by generation. I think these are probably safe. And what are they going to tell you? Those are snake oils. But here's the thing. They can't say that Eastern medicine is also snake oils, because then it's like, really? Really? Every form of alternative medicine that a person wants to seek, they're all snake oils? All of them? No. So that is why they will disparage herbs and things of that nature, the natural components. They will call it snake oils, but they will not talk about Eastern medicine the same way, because that's going to arouse too much suspicion. So what they will actually do, what all narcissists do, they will maintain control and eradicate the threat to control by withdrawing attention from it, or by making disparaging comments about it. So they're going to disparage the natural herbs and alternative modalities of treating somebody's symptoms. They will make those disparaging comments, but they will completely withdraw attention, and they will completely not give any attention to the possibility that Eastern medicine can actually help somebody. Because their main objective is power and control and profits over people. And yes, a lot of their so-called healing things are actually designed to make people sick, keep people sick, and kill people, which is also a form of population control. Because think about it this way, if something is designed to help somebody, why is there any potential that it's going to do anything other than help somebody? Why do people still die from Western? And I am not taking cheap shots. I am not disparaging. I'm just sharing information with you that I'm hoping that is going to be thought-provoking. And yes, this is part of my own personal opinion. If something is designed to help somebody, why is any level of a negative potential side effect considered to be okay? How many people have to die before a medication is pulled off of the market? Just asking. So, everything that they do is to fulfill those main objectives. I hope that answers your question about why there is a lack of integration between Eastern and Western medicine, and if not, comment down below. I'm a little biased. Guess what? It's also my YouTube channel. These are my videos. I can share my biases as long as I share what's my opinion and what is not channeled information. Because also keep in mind, the channeled information does come from a higher level, a higher vibration, a higher source. They're not going to be snarky the way I am. So any snark, know that that comes from me. Whether or not I say it's 2% opinion. Part of that happened to have been. I'm also just going to remind you before we move on to this next topic here that all of the information in all of my videos is take what resonates and leave the rest behind. That is going to also very much connect to this next thing that I'm going to share, which is all about cancer. Okay, so cancer was shown to me as a virus. Now, just like we can have a respiratory virus that manifests with the respiratory system, the cancer virus causes cells around a particular blocked part of the body where the energy is stagnant, and that will therefore cause the cancerous cells to start to multiply. It's a stagnation of energy in a particular part of the body. So the issue with cancer is it is a 1-2 punch. Because wherever there is stagnant chi or stagnant energy, that is the part of the body that may be susceptible to cancer cells multiplying in that particular spot. I was therefore shown that Tai Chi is actually the optimum exercise as it moves the chi or the energy around the body. No stagnant chi or energy when you are practicing Tai Chi. Now, I was also shown that vitamin C is effective at treating cancer, just as it is effective at treating all other viruses. And yes, this is true, because I knew a doctor years ago that actually had done cancer trials in the 1970s where they were able to, I don't know if I can use the word cure, but if a person had a tumor, through high levels of vitamin C treatment as well as oxygen treatment, the tumors were shrinking in size. I don't know if they were completely healed or if they were completely cured, but the tumors were reducing in size. Because of what? High levels of vitamin C and oxygen treatment. Now, what was also shown to me about cancer is that certain people may be more prone to the cancer virus due to lifestyle or exposure of environmental toxic elements that may leave them immunodeficient and immunocompromised, and thus it is easier for the virus to take hold. So again, imagine, if you will, somebody is a lifelong smoker of cigarettes, they smoke for 60 years. Is it really going to be a surprise if that person comes down with cancer? Lung cancer? That would probably be due to their, again, free will, because free will reigns supreme. That would probably be due to free will. But let's say a person is living in a highly toxic environment, as we have seen with a lot of these, there's so many movies that are coming out now, and of course I can't remember the names of them, but these movies that are coming out now where there's people that were living like close to a toxic dump site, and then they're finding that all of their cattle are dying. And then on top of their cattle dying, they're starting to get really, really sick, and then they're starting to get cancer. And it's because the toxic elements that were dumped near their land is seeping into their land. It is seeping into their water supply. So that is where the person is inundated with an exposure to elements in their toxic elements that are in their environment. Now you might be wondering, okay, so Faye, if they're living in an environment where there's more toxicity that can lend itself to somebody getting cancer, what is the behind the veil explanation of that? Now, that can be where through the experience of the person having cancer, they are either going to be learning patience. Maybe they're going to be learning temperance. Maybe they have to get really fucking frustrated before they actually speak up. Maybe through that experience of the local town ordinance saying, no, there's no connection to the toxic wasteland that is right in your backyard. It's through them finding their voice and fighting the system and fighting the establishment and finding attorneys and finding their voice. So while yes, sickness and illness can manifest in the 3D, not all of it is by our own personal choices, i.e. the smoker that develops the lung cancer. There could be a deeper energetic or soul component behind it. Now, I'm also going to share with you that years ago when I was still living in New York, I actually knew somebody that was in his, I would say, he was younger than 30, and he had developed testicular cancer. He also completely changed his lifestyle. He was living at that time in Williamsburg, literally so close almost that if he would have opened up his window, I mean, it was probably less than 20 feet away. He would open up his window and he was right by where one of the on-ramps onto the BQE, which is one of the highways that run there. So imagine, he's maybe outside or he's on his rooftop, because that's what a lot of people have in New York. You have like a rooftop, whatever, not like an actual garden or a backyard. Maybe he's on the rooftop, maybe he's opened up his window. Think of all the toxic and the exposure to all of the exhaust that he's going to be inundated with. So he got diagnosed with testicular cancer. He moved out of the city. He moved to upstate New York, completely changed his lifestyle, got rid of everything that was causing him stress. He cut out all gluten, all dairy, against his oncologist's advice. The oncologist was like, you're young, you're gonna have a complete recovery. We're gonna nuke that motherfucking set of balls that you have. We are going to radiate them to kingdom come. And he was like, how about no? How about I move? So he went against the oncologist's orders, one could say, completely changed his lifestyle, moved upstate, got rid of stressors, got rid of gluten, got rid of dairy. Guess what? Cancer-free. It can be done. Again, please understand that I am not saying that with the intention of giving you medical advice. Everybody has to make their own determination for what is going to work for them. I'm just sharing a person that I know about that was able to take care of things in an alternative way. With that being said, I'm also going to share that this person, nice guy as he was also what one might consider a bit of a man whore. So typical guy that might be, for example, on apps, might be on Tinder looking to hook up with somebody. Maybe this whole experience was also a way for him to learn temperance of where he should and should not be putting his man parts. Because I'm going to bet that through that experience, he was not hooking up with a lot of people. So maybe part of this was like he needed to learn temperance, what to do with his own body. And maybe part of it was he needed to keep it to himself. 2% opinion. So, back to cancer. I was also shown that Big Pharma does create a disease so that they can create the cure and make millions or billions off of it. However, this is actually not the case with cancer. Cancer is not one of them. And I was also shown that Big Pharma does know that high doses of vitamin C can cure the cancer, but nobody makes money off of it. So what do? They suppress it. That's not their preferred methodology. What is the preferred methodology is very expensive radiation treatment, which will also do what? Will also decrease rather greatly the quality of life that that person has. And when somebody has a decreased quality of life, what therefore will then start to happen, their energy and their vibration will become lower. So you want to stop ascension, you want to keep people in a low vibrational element, this is one hell of a way to do it. Big Pharma does suppress cures because, again, there is no money to be made on a healthy population, but plenty of money to be made on a sick one. So I hope that answers your question about cancer, and if not, please comment down below. I have some more pages to skip from what I had last channeled in my last AMA. Oh, here's Vibrational Ascension and the New Earth. Good video. Go back and if you haven't seen it yet. Here's the AI. Also a good video. Go back if you haven't seen it. Just go back and watch all my videos if you haven't seen them. They're all so good. Okay. The next one is fibromyalgia. And this is what was shown to me. So fibromyalgia, my understanding of what it is, I actually had a yoga client many years ago who had fibromyalgia. And the way she had explained it to me was that fibromyalgia was where you have a lot of pain in the nerves in your body. That's my understanding. Again, this is anecdotal. It's what someone had shared with me years ago. If you know more about it, please feel free to comment down below what it is. But this is what was shown to me as what it actually is behind the veil. It is a neurological condition where there is a so-called dead end of where the nerves can travel to. So the nerves therefore keep bumping into a dead end as it tries to move throughout the body. This will then in turn create pain in the body as it keeps trying to go where it cannot go. So imagine, if you will, I'm going to give you a very, very, not the greatest of examples, but it'll suffice. So imagine, if you will, somebody has a lot of pain in their arm. And the nerves in their arm are traveling up from the fingers all the way up the arm to the shoulder. So the arm is in a lot of pain, and then the shoulder is in an enormous amount of pain as well. So imagine, if you will, all of the nerves that are coming up that are meant to connect to other parts of the body. It's like there's a dead end, or a better way of putting it is a perceived dead end. It's not an actual dead end. It's where the nerves that connect out of the shoulder perceive there to be a dead end. So they're all traveling up here, and they're all accumulating here, and then they're all banging in to where they think that there's a dead end. That's going to cause a lot of pain. So I asked what causes it, and was told that it is an element of an underdeveloped sense of self and a micro expression of a lack of expansiveness represented in the body. But it is experienced with the sense of self-identity as a whole. I'm going to explain what that means. I'm going to actually read that again, and I'm going to explain what it means again. So I asked what causes it, and it was shown to me as it is an element of an underdeveloped sense of self and a lack of expansiveness that is experienced in the body because it is a lack of self-identity as a whole. Okay, so let's talk about that. I'm going to first talk about what the energetic remedy is, and then you're going to understand how it connects to what I just said. The energetic remedy is then to therefore put yourself out of your comfort zone, and often. Because if this is a person that, let's say, has not fully developed all parts of a whole or all parts of themselves, there is, if you will, not a full amount of expansion and expansiveness and a sense of ease for the energy to flow in their body. So how do you actually change that? It is to explore different parts of yourself, and even to do things that you don't think will resonate with you, as that will then therefore create more space in your body, a sense of more expansiveness, and create new neural pathways in the mind, which will in turn develop new areas for the synapses to travel to. So the remedy is, if you have an underdeveloped sense of self in any way, shape, or form, how is it going to manifest? It's going to manifest in fibromyalgia, where there is the perception of a dead end in certain parts of the body, where the energy or the neural pathways are bumping into a perceived dead end. You want to create more expansion and ease in your body, go put yourself out there more. Not like sexually, but like, I don't know, let's say you think you're not going to like bowling because the last time you went bowling was in 1989 and you had a horrible time. go fucking bowling. Maybe you're going to have a great time. Maybe you're going to end up loving it. Maybe you're going to end up joining a bowling league. And also, anecdotally, I'm going to share with you that the woman that I had worked with years ago that had fibromyalgia had devoted the majority of her adult life, which is when her fibromyalgia had actually set in, to helping 2 of her special needs children become independent while also caring for a husband that was not the most supportive partner. So she had to compromise great amounts of herself for the good of her family. Therefore, she developed fibromyalgia, in my opinion. So I hope that answers your question about fibromyalgia, and if not, please comment down below. Now, here's a great one. I actually had to look into this because I had never heard of it. This is something called maladaptive daydreaming. And what it is I believe, well, first of all, it's called maladaptive because it's like beyond the scope of what we would call normal daydreaming. Get back to work, you lazy motherfucker. We don't pay you to daydream on the job, right? Because again, in the 3-dimensional, our sense of value is connected to our output. How much work are we doing? How little rest are we taking, right? Like imagine in an 8-hour shift, people get 2 15-minute breaks and 1 30-minute lunch break. Are you fucking kidding me? Again, 2% opinion, you can tell it's snark, but really? I'm sorry, I thought I came here to work just to live. I didn't know that I came here and that my primary purpose in living was just to work. So the maladaptive, it is actually called maladaptive for that reason. Follow where I'm going. I'm getting a little snarky. I am a little bit snarky in this video. Please forgive. So maladaptive daydreaming happens to people that are not completely in this world on a soul level. Now that sounds scary. It's not meant to be. It's actually really, really good. Here's why. Because of this, they are super connected to the other side without knowing what they are actually connected to. And what they are therefore daydreaming of can be places that they have actually been in other incarnations. It can be where they are actually from. If they're like, for example, a starseed, you might in your daydreams begin to see your actual home planet or your actual solar system. So yes, it is there. What their daydreaming can be where they're actually from or other worlds that they have been to. And it's not just an actual so-called daydream. So in a way, these people hold a key to other worlds that can inspire us. They may be best suited to work in creative industries such as cartoonists, screenwriters, novelists, fantasy writers, etc. But that being bound into a standard 9-to-5 job will energetically suck the soul and life out of them. Now, it is called maladaptive by those that are fully enmeshed in the 3D and do not understand what this actually is. Again, quit slacking. We don't pay you to daydream around here. Maladaptive daydreaming is a soul contract to be experienced as these people remind us that there are more worlds to dance in. So I hope that answers your question about maladaptive daydreaming. Will I skip some more pages? And if not, please do comment down below. Okay, the next question that had come in was on chronic fatigue. And chronic fatigue was shown to me. Oh, for anyone that doesn't know what it is, chronic fatigue is where a person can experience periods of tiredness that can be brought on seemingly out of nowhere. And it is also not something that can be remedied with caffeine consumption. Like, I've actually had experiences where I've had chronic fatigue and I could drink a cup of coffee and it would do no good. I would be like, I cannot move. I cannot get off of this sofa right now. I must go take a nap, or I must do absolutely fucking nothing. And this is what it is behind the veil. So chronic fatigue is shown to me as a person that is living in denial of the needs of their inner child. So perhaps this is a people pleaser, a codependent, or or it is someone that has had to leave parts of themselves behind and keep putting one foot in front of the other, tending to the needs and the cares of others around them. So the inner child therefore revolts as its needs, care, and attention need to be met as well. So the fatigue is a response to the person doing too much for others and not enough for themselves, and it is therefore a form of a hard reset for them. So the way to get to the other side of chronic fatigue is to heal your inner child. Spend time with yourself, checking in with yourself, inquiring what you need, and nurturing yourself. So I hope that that answers any question that you have about chronic fatigue, and if not, please comment down below. The next question that had come in, this is a shorter one, but this is about diabetes. And diabetes is a toxic overload of the system that leads to specific organ failure, specifically the system that regulates blood sugar levels. Now, this is not specifically, or I should rather say it is not solely connected to food toxicity. It can also be an emotional overload of toxic emotions, in exposure to certain people, environmental, and etc. Not just food. Food is a key component in it as well, and I actually just saw a video. So here's the thing. Anything that we see in the 3D can have any number of causes, right? I probably should have put this at the beginning, but c'est la vie. It's being shared when it was meant to be shared. It can have a energetic, vibrational, soul, spiritual, or 3D component behind it, right? Like again, the person that was smoking for many, many years is going to develop perhaps lung cancer. So a person that has diabetes, there can actually be causes in the 3D as well. But it is actually a toxic overload, and of what? I'm not a doctor, but I did see this video and I was like, holy fuck, that makes sense. It's a toxic overload of gluten and wheat. Because our food supply, our gluten and our wheat is nowhere close to what it was 100 years ago. So because it is being completely stripped of any of the nutritional value to someone that is more of an energetic disposition in a 3-dimensional nature, it will actually be a toxic overload in their system. So yes, understand that any of the things that I am talking about herein can be a multitude of causes. 3-dimensional, soul, environmental, spiritual, energetic. Now, what was shown to me about it is detoxing will help these people regulate their system. Again, it might not necessarily only be restricted to the food. Doing a food detox is going to help them greatly. What's also going to help is detoxing toxic people out of their life, because that can be the toxic overload as well. So I hope that that answers any question that you may have on diabetes, and if not, please comment down below. Now, the next one I was asked to look into is the mental health system, and when I was looking into the mental health system, something came in on the back of it as well. So they come together, they come in a pair. That is the mental health system and so-called gender affirming care, which I will be discussing, okay? And I know that I have subscribers that are actually in the mental health system. Please understand that what I am saying herein is not meant, just like I was not attacking Western medicine doctors before, anything that I'm going to say herein is not attacking the industry that you are in. And it is certainly not attacking you as well, because if you are here, you are more spiritually inclined. This information that I'm going to share is not going to connect to you. It is not going to correlate to you. It is to the system as a whole, but not the individual practitioners of it. Because again, in my experience, people that go into such an industry where they are helping others, it is probably because they are highly empathic people. If you're highly empathic, a lot of what I'm going to say herein is not necessarily going to apply to you, okay? Understand that in advance. This one gets a warning in advance. Now, the mental health system currently was shown to me that it treats people with the approach, this is the system as a whole, not the individual people, but understand if it's at the top, it's going to trickle down. So as it is currently, treats people with the approach that there is something wrong with them. This is therefore going to taint the treatment and the approach to helping these people because there's something wrong with them. So the patient is already perceived to be in a lower and disempowered state, which will then therefore will also affect the quality and level of care that they receive. This was shown to me as being a reflection of society and how we have placed value in a person's productivity, and that if they come in seeking help, to again get them to a position where they can be productive members of society. Therefore, not treating the actual underlying issue, as it is not understood where it is actually coming from, but it is only to get them back to being a high-functioning, performing-oriented member of society. Once we come to understand that there is actually nothing wrong with these people, but they are somebody that are not living in alignment. There's that word again. It's going to keep coming up through this video. There is nothing wrong with them, but they are somebody that is not living in alignment with their environment. The level of care and the treatment that they will receive will in fact change. However, this was shown to me that we are about 6 years away from this happening. The system is going to go through a massive overhaul and a massive change. We're about 6 years away from it. But the perception of the people will go that there is something wrong with them, and we will more come to understand that they're living out of alignment in some way, shape, or form, either an energetic or a vibrational or a soul level. But once we come to understand that there's more than there's the physical manifestation, what is the actual cause behind it, the level of care will change. Here's why it came in piggybacked with gender affirming care. Why is the system going to have to change? It's because of gender affirming care, and here's why. The so-called gender affirming care is going to put a big strain on the system financially, as many people that are currently in the system will start to wake up. People that have perhaps already started to transition. And then once they wake up, they will start to sue their doctors and the mental health system as a whole. Because here's why. It is not a treating physician's job to affirm somebody's perceived gender. What is somebody's job as a mental health professional? It is to listen, to hold space for that person, and to be a safe space for that person. It is not an actual mental health professional's job to affirm anybody's identity. You're just there to hold space for them to share with you what their perception of their own identity is, and then perhaps to explore why they have this perception. It's not to actually affirm it. So this was shown to me as it is going to radically shake up the entire system, and that the trans movement, look at it this way, was kind of shown to me as like a volcano just prior to eruption. There's going to be this compound, this buildup of energy just prior to eruption, and then there's going to be some sort of a shocking reveal of some kind that will be the catalyst for the actual explosion. This was also shown to me as having an unfortunate blow back onto the entire LGBTQIA+ organization, as that there are, in fact, very many good meaning and well-intending people that are working in it, but they are working in the dark as well. Because there is something that is actually going on behind the veil with the entire movement, that even these people that genuinely want to help and that genuinely care, they don't even know what it is. So there's going to be some sort of a shocking reveal that is going to have to reform the entire mental health profession and the entire mental health industry. And unfortunately, it is going to negatively affect the people that are really, really in it for the right reasons. So I hope that that answers any question that you have about the mental health system. And if not, please comment down below. I'm going to skip some more pages here. I told you everything kind of gets channeled in different times. Okay, so the next question was something that pertains to borderline personality disorder. And my understanding of borderline is that it's where a person can experience all in one day, in the scope of one day, kind of like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. It is not, what was the first one that we had started with? It is not, oh, God damn it. This is why I have to have notes. You see, without notes, I'm kind of useless here. Guys, it's not me. You're not here for me. You're here for what my guides bring in. And I'm perfectly okay with that because my guides are pretty fucking cool. They don't let me down. You know, they're my form of Google. I don't have to actually Google too much because I got my guides. Unless I need to look up like dates or names or, you know, something of an actual three-dimensional nature. Here it is. Thank you very much. Manic depression. It's different than manic depression because whereas manic depression, the symptoms can kind of like show up and they can be prolonged over a period of time. My understanding is that borderline is kind of like more in a shorter period of time. So somebody in one day could like love you and then by the afternoon they can hate you. They can like want to renew their vows with you and then they can want to like divorce you all in the same day. So this is what was, and it's probably like a very, very big oversimplification of it, but that is kind of like what my anecdotal understanding of borderline personality is. I will also share, this I actually do know, that borderline is considered to be a part of the cluster B personality disorders, and it is together with narcissism. Narcissism is a personality disorder, so too is borderline personality disorder. They are classified under the same classification system, okay? Now, what was shown to me about the behind the veil component of it is that this is a fracturing of the self at a young age due to trauma. So it is essentially a maladaptive coping mechanism, and the way to overcome it is by doing deep inner child healing and calling all the parts of the self back. However, the issue with doing that is that because it is a coping mechanism, the person with it does not necessarily know that they have it, and might even be, if they are diagnosed with it, very, very resentful of having this diagnosis, and they're going to not identify with it, and they're going to say, it's not me, I'm not the problem. And that, therefore, is going to make healing from it very, very difficult. But if the person can lower their resistance, or perhaps by working with a healthcare provider that has this understanding of it, and not by attaching the label to it for a person that might be overly attached to denying the label associated with it, if they can work with them on lowering their resistance just a little bit, that person can then come to see themselves a little bit more clearly and with a feeling of acquiescence that they can then get the help that they need. So I hope that that answers any question you have about borderline personality disorder, and if not, please comment down below. Now, this next one is a question about Epstein-Barr virus. This is very, very interesting what came in. Now, Epstein-Barr virus is my understanding that it is connected to mononucleosis, or mono. I know this because when I was 15, I actually had mono. Now, I had it concurrent with pneumonia, which is not a fun mix by any means. But I have also come to then, therefore, understand that Epstein. Here's the funny thing about mono. It's also, anecdotally, it's called the kissing disease because it's spread through oral germs. Was I kissing anybody at that point? I'm not going to confirm nor deny because my mother watches these videos. But I'll actually just share that I do know how I got it, which is that, no, Mom, I wasn't kissing anybody at 15. But I had shared a... Back then where I lived, I think it's still actually there's a Friendly's. We used to go to get the milkshakes from Friendly's. And I had shared a milkshake with my friend a couple of days before the onset of mono. And yes, we shared the same straw, because that's what you do when you're a dumb kid and you're with your best friend and you feel invincible and no, I'm not going to get sick because I'm sharing a straw with my best friend. So the interesting thing about Epstein-Barr is that also, once you have it, it doesn't ever really go away. And here's the next part. Epstein-Barr was shown to me as being an invisible wrecking ball / a disco ball. And here's why. The virus can be playing out in the background while the host body is, for the most part, completely unaware of it. But it is at this time the invisible wrecking ball causing chaos behind the scenes. So I'm going to compare this, because it's a virus, I'm going to compare it to a virus on a computer. Let's say you're powering down your computer for a long holiday weekend, but just prior to shutting down your computer, you click on a website and you don't know that it has malware. And then you shut your computer down. So your computer's not even on. And then while it's off over this weekend, there is untold chaos and devastation being caused to your device. And then Monday morning comes and you're going to try to power back your device back up, and you might have that blue screen of doom, or it might not power on at all. And you're going to be like, what the actual fuck? It's because there was not the understanding that there was malware going on in the background causing chaos, devastation, and destruction to a device. But in this case, the device is a person. It's not an actual technological device. And the Epstein bar is an invisible wrecking ball going on in the background while the person has no knowledge of it going on in the background, and it is just tearing up their system. Now, it was shown to me as a disco ball. This is wild. Here's why. Because once it is actually known what is going on, the disco ball is reflecting all around it, but it is still actually hiding what the ball is doing behind the scenes. So it's a form of distraction and misdirection, if you will, because it's causing all of this devastation and destruction, where it could be manifesting in any number of things that are going on in a person's system, but it's without the understanding of what the root cause of all of those other symptoms that are coming out is, which is the Epstein-Barr virus. So prior to the manifestation of the three-dimensional symptoms, it's the invisible wrecking ball. At the point that the symptoms actually come to be known, it is then a disco ball reflecting all the pretty lights in the club around you, while meanwhile the damn club is burning down and you don't know, because you're distracted by all of the pretty lights that are around you. Now, this was shown to me as being an energetic self-worth issue, because many people will probably get Epstein-Barr. Not all of those people are going to end up with any of the very, very bad physical manifestations that can come with it, right? It can lay completely dormant in somebody's system. It may never be activated. What's the activation of it? It is a energetic self-worth issue. The invisible wrecking ball is therefore an activation of the invisible child, perhaps a neglected child, the child that doesn't feel safe that they can speak up or even have their needs met. Now, the disco ball is then reflecting all of the needs of the others around that person, but not the needs of them themselves. So by repairing their self-worth issues, that may alone be enough to heal the energetic component that is causing the activation of the 3D manifestations of the Epstein-Barr virus and whatever else may come with it. So I hope that answers any question that you have on Epstein-Barr virus. I'm going to repeat this one more time because I'm actually just thinking about how wild this is. Again, the Epstein-Barr virus is a 1-2 punch. It's an invisible wrecking ball, then it is an actual disco ball. The invisible wrecking ball component is the invisible child, the neglected child, the child that felt like their needs could not be met. And then when it's activated, it is then therefore the disco ball, where it's all of the other needs of the people that are around them that are being met instead. So I think that is absolutely wild. Please let me know if you have any further questions on Epstein-Barr virus. Okay, the next one is on IBS, which stands for irritable bowel syndrome. And this was shown to me as a denial of reality. And here's why. So I know this from my own work doing, where I work with clients on the energetic level, or where I'm even like doing the behind the veil personal readings that I do for my clients, that any stomach issue is always connected to the throat. It just is. And here's why. When we're eating, it's coming down from the throat into the stomach. And when there is an issue with the actual digestion, it's an issue that is coming up from the stomach into the throat. So they are very much closely connected. Now, why is this considered to be a denial of reality? Because what are we taking in? It could be food, but what are we taking in, perhaps on an energetic or vibrational level, that we are either not accepting, or in the case of IBS, this can be an actual denial of reality to that person because they are denying what they are experiencing. What are they taking in that they don't want to admit that they're taking in? Or it's an attempted denial of reality that is not actually succeeded. Therefore, there is the feeling of the irritable bowel syndrome. So the irritation of the stomach is because of what they are perhaps unconsciously absorbing, or it's the irritation because of what they are trying to deny, but the irritation is their body's way of getting their person's attention. So the energetic treatment to this is to slow down and to experience life more fully, to breathe consciously, not unconsciously, to ground yourself, to get out in nature and to connect to nature, to find the beauty in life and allow yourself to experience it. Slow down when you eat and watch what you consume, not just food-wise, but watch what you consume visually. So perhaps this is a person that is they're perhaps watching too much porn, and they're trying to deny that this is not good for them. They're like, it's just harmless porn. There's nothing to. Meanwhile, we talk time and again about how detrimental porn actually is. So they're trying to deny the reality that the porn they're consuming is not good for them. Their body is trying to wake them up. Yo, buddy, turn the fucking porn off. What are they perhaps taking in auditorily? So is a person listening to very, very dark podcasts, perhaps? Could they perhaps be in an environment, a work environment, where there's a lot of verbal abuse being meted at them? You don't think that's going to have an effect on a person? What are they consuming mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? So by slowing down, this is an invitation to do a complete assessment of all of the things that we're consuming, both food-wise and visually, auditorily, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So I hope that answers your question about IBS, and if not, please comment down below. Now, the next question that came up is about Down syndrome. And what is the true meaning and purpose behind the veil of people that have Down syndrome? So this was shown to me as souls that have chosen, they have volunteered to come in as somebody that has Down syndrome. And Down syndrome, I believe, is somebody that has like an extra chromosome, I believe. So these are souls that have chosen to come in as an example of how to live truly unaffected by the outside world. If you have ever seen a person with Down syndrome, they are just content and they are just happy. They're completely unaffected by the outside world. And in a way, they also need nothing from us, only to be kept safe and protected, which is then in turn meant to trigger us and our essential connection to human beings and our obligations to keep other souls safe. People with Down syndrome truly live freely and purely, and they model that true contentment, regardless of what is going on in the outside world, is in fact possible. They are our teachers. We just need to see that. So I hope that answers your question about Down syndrome, and if not, please comment down below. Now, the next question that I had received is about stress rashes. This is a shorter one, but kind of self-explanatory. A stress rash is exactly that. It is a physical manifestation of the body being stressed out. And it can be by, probably by toxins and a repeated exposure to them. So therefore, the solution is to check first and foremost all food intake, as well as entire environmental toxins as well. So I hope that answers your question about stress rashes, and if not, comment down below. Okay, here's childhood depression, which we had just done. Okay, here's an interesting one. Now, I didn't get the full clarification of what the question was what actually was. So I'm going to kind of just wing it here. But this is about people that get repeatedly become pregnant in secret. I don't know what happens after their pregnancy, because that was not like illuminated in the question, and I didn't think to ask for a follow-up at the time anyway. I don't know if they're giving the child up for their adoption, or they're choosing to keep it, but they are just repeatedly getting pregnant and they're keeping it a secret until, surprise, they have a baby. Now, this is what was shown to me. This is someone with a severe sense of abandonment, and it is either connected to either a massive childhood wound or a past life trauma, and therefore they get repeatedly pregnant so that they feel for at least that time period that they are pregnant. You have another human being growing inside of you. Good luck not having it connected to you while it's growing. So for that time period anyway, that they will not be alone and they will not be left, again, for the duration of their pregnancy. And it was also shown that hypnotherapy may help with this. So I hope that answers your question about secret pregnancies on repeat, and if not, please comment down below. All right, here's a wild one. Oh man, and I see that breast cancer is here, and I didn't tack it onto the other type of cancer. Ah well, good thing for timestamps. All right, now this is a question about psychopaths, psychopathy, and how psychopathy will actually will manifest differently in people's brains when you do I'm not sure what you look at the brain with. I think it's maybe like an MRI or like a CAT scan or something like that. But people that have psychopathy, their brain will actually show differently in the tests that can be performed. Okay, so I'm going to, again, before I talk about the psychopathy, remind you that everything that we see playing out is going to have one of any number of explanations behind it: energetic, vibration, soul, spiritual, or something in the three-dimensional. Sometimes those things can have an overlap, okay? Now, this is what was shown to me about psychopathy. Oh, and for anyone that doesn't know what a psychopath is, it's somebody that has no empathy, no regard for other people. They also have an incredibly high threshold for very, very, very dangerous activities, because they're not really like hardwired the same way we are. They're not really activated by the same things that we're activated by. So they may engage in a lot of like reckless or thrill-seeking behavior because their threshold for the discomfort that those things are going to cause is much, much greater. So they will engage in things because other than that, they may not actually really feel alive on a deep fundamental level. Sure, they're breathing, but they're not going to have the same reality that we share. So this is what was shown to me about psychopathy. This is a soul that it's a fragmented soul, because there is parts of themselves that they just cannot access. And those parts happen to be the parts that regulate empathy and emotion. Now, because everything in the spiritual realm or the vibrational realm can have a counterpart in the three-dimensional world, this is going to explain the irregularities that are in their brain. Their brain is just not activated the same way our brains are. That's going to have a very, very real reality that is going to be perceived in the three-dimensional world. Let's talk a little bit about why they're a fractured soul, though, because that's where it gets interesting. Now, the reason they are a fractured soul or fragmented soul is because they did not take the necessary time between lifetimes or prior to this incarnation where they come in as a psychopath to process their previous lifetimes and to integrate all of the soul lessons associated with it. So these are perhaps very, very impetuous, very, very impatient people. And it's like, they're kind of in like the space in between incarnations where they have the opportunity to sit with God. They have an opportunity to heal themselves. They have an opportunity to look back on all of the lessons of that previous incarnation and then say, you know what? Maybe I want to sit this next lifetime out, or maybe I want to have an easier go because that was a particularly gnarly incarnation. They need the time to absorb that on a soul level in between their incarnations so that they can best, if you will, curate the best experience for that soul when they choose to come back in. However, due to their impetuousness, due to, if you will, and that actually will bleed through, it will show up in their incarnation where they just are not wired the same way, right? They need more excitement to feel alive. They're impetuous. So it's again because they did not take the necessary time to process the previous lessons of previous incarnations. And therefore, this impetuous soul has a certain amount of soul healing and integration that was not done, but was necessary to do. So there's a certain amount of soul healing and integration that is necessary, and without it, it can manifest in the next incarnation as a fragmented soul that is a wrecking ball in human form, as they did not learn from their past mistakes because they chose not to integrate it, and they are therefore more liable and prone to repeat them. So I hope that answers your question about psychopathy. If not, please let me know down below. Now, this next one is about breast cancer. And as we had shared with cancer prior, there can also be a physical explanation for it. Somebody lives in a toxic wasteland, they are more perhaps prone to experience cancer. But that cancer also is because there is a blockage of chi in a particular part of their body. So for somebody that gets breast cancer, this is where there is a blockage of chi by the breast because the woman is living out of alignment with some fundamental part of their femininity, or it is a denial of it. So the body goes into protest mode, which is therefore in turn forcing the woman to confront the breasts, which are a fundamental part of what it means to be a woman. This can also be with a woman that is not connected to their divine femininity, or it's a woman that is overly identifying and embracing the masculine parts of themselves. So this is essentially a denial of the divine way in which we were constructed, and that by denying an integration of all the parts of ourself, that can sometimes manifest as a form of breast cancer. So I hope that answers your question, and if not, please comment down below. Now, we're getting there. I'm going to start to speak a little bit faster because you're probably noticing I'm wearing a watch, which I never do. I have a session and I have to be ready for my session, but I'm trying to be really, really efficient today. So the next question was about mass infertility and miscarriages. Wild. I love this. This is what was shown to me. Right now, Earth is energetically upgrading. We have talked about this ad nauseum. Maybe not ad nauseum. Maybe you like hearing about it. I don't know. If you do, comment down below and let me know. Or go back and watch the video I had done on Ascension and the New Earth. So just as the portals have been closed to prevent low vibration entities from coming through, the same has been done with human portals, which are mothers. So these are perhaps souls that those souls that are not coming in on a mass scale because they are not a vibrational match for where we are going. Now, it could be that they were conceived in a low vibrational state where perhaps the woman was in a great deal of fear. She was thinking about her parents, like maybe her parents were sick, maybe they had C19, or she was concerned that her husband was going to get laid off. Oh my God. So there was a great deal of fear associated with it. So these are souls that were perhaps conceived in a low vibrational state, or to a woman whose body needed rest and reset because she had gotten one of these thingies. But the underlying theme is that they are not energetically aligned with where Earth is going. So while this in the three-dimensional seems very, very terrible and detrimental, it is actually only to help with our ascension by guaranteeing that Earth and the vibration here continues to rise. So I hope that it answers your question about mass infertilities and miscarriages, and if not, please comment down below. I'm going to skip some more pages. Here's Johnny Depp, which we had looked into. Here's Letitia Stouch, which we had looked into. Okay, Here's the next one. Now, this is a question that pertains to weight loss. Or I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say that it is perhaps somebody's inability to lose weight. Now, this is what had come through and was shown to me. Weight loss is connected to what are you afraid of letting go of that you are holding on to, perhaps on an energetic or vibrational or emotional level. Here's why. The energy of weight that is actually a self-protective element. So what are you afraid of letting go of that you want to feel protected from, that you are afraid you will not be protected of if you let go of the weight? Now, I'm also, here, I'll get to that actually in a minute. It was shown to me that our body has incredible wisdom to teach us if we can slow down and tap in. So what is your body telling you by holding on to the weight? What does the weight signify? This is a deeply personal experience for somebody to explore, and it varies from person to person. Now, here's where I'm also going to bring up the book. Here, this is also going to connect, hold on. I'm going to skip ahead for a second, and I'm going to connect it to obesity. Now, obesity was also shown to me as being connected to childhood sexual abuse. Now, that is connected to weight loss because what is obesity? It's a great accumulation of weight that a person, for whatever reason, is not losing. So again, what does the weight signify in that case? This is where I'm also going to draw attention to the book that I had mentioned earlier on in depression, which is a book called Lost Connections. Now, there's one segment in the book where it talks about, there was and I had read this book a couple of years ago, so I'm gonna end up like paraphrasing it a little bit. I probably don't remember it like exactly to a T. But there's a hospital called Kaiser Permanente, and I believe it was Kaiser because it says Kaiser. And they had done this study where they wanted to have very, very obese or heavy people work with a nutritionist, and they wanted to get those people healthy because then they could perhaps like cut down on the medication that they were taking. I'm sure there was a reason that was, connected to the benefit of the hospital, not like we want to make these people be healthy. But something very interesting had come up when in the course of this, that the people that lost the most amount of weight ended up gaining it back. So again, what did the weight signify to them? And there was two such examples that were shared in the book, which is one of the examples is a girl had shared that when she was 12 years old was when she started gaining a lot of weight. And that was also the year that her grandfather started raping her. Another person had shared that being overweight meant being overlooked. So the weight for them was a protective element. It was a three-dimensional shield, if you will, in a world that they did not feel safe in their bodies. Or maybe they didn't have an expectation that they were going to go to sleep at night, that they would be safe. Because maybe they were going to have a parent waking them up wanting to have sex with them. Maybe it was going to be an uncle that was going to be taking them to the bathroom at a family gathering and molesting them. Maybe it was someone at school. There's any host of ways that a person's body can be violated sexually, which can then in turn to them lead them to not feeling safe in their own body. So the weight signifies a protective element to them. Now, am I suggesting that every person that suffers with weight loss is somebody that has had previous sexual abuse or sexual trauma? No. But it is to say that that weight is a protective element in some level, or it signifies something on some level. So that if you can identify what the weight actually signifies, that will give you a deeper sense of understanding in what are you holding on to, or what are you not confronting, or why do you not want to let go of that weight, or why does the extra weight allow you to then feel safe? Again, this is a deeply personal experience for every person individually to explore. So I hope that answers your question, and if not, please comment down below. Now, the next question is about people that are autistic. And I'm going to say that this is not like a highly functioning autistic person. I'm going to say that this is really this is my guess anyway. because we have highly functioning autistic people, such as, what's his name? Elon Musk. And then there's another woman I had mentioned in another one of my videos. Her name is Temple Grandin, who is a highly functioning autistic woman. And she actually, Google her if you don't know about her. I actually saw her speak and I was blown away by her. She actually envisioned the way that cattle go to the slaughter, where it wasn't like one straight line where the animals are walking and then they can see what's happening to the other animals and they can feel the anxiety that the other animals are feeling. So she had actually devised it where it was kind of like more of like a this kind of a thing. So that way the animals are being funneled in, they can't see what's happening in front of them. Makes a lot more sense. So there are very, very highly functioning autistic people. I don't think the question was about them because when I looked into it, this is not the information that I had received. So this is about people that are not highly functioning and that have more, I guess, severe, or severe is not the right word, have maybe a higher level of autism as it is showing up in the 3D manifestation. Now, this is what was shown to me about autistic people. They are highly evolved souls and highly sensitive souls. And in some way, because they are so highly evolved, they're still in some way connected to the other side. And that is why they have trouble integrating with us. We are foreign to them as they are so high vibe and such high vibrational light beings, but they are still interacting with us nonetheless. And they're interacting with us in the low, dense, three-dimensional vibration world. But it is with the understanding of who we really are. So they're confused and dysregulated because of it. So imagine, if you will, this is a great example. If you've ever been to a yoga class, you know at the end of a yoga class, the teacher says to the students, and the students say to the teacher, Namaste. What does Namaste mean? Namaste means the highest part of me, the divine portion of my soul, recognizes and bows to the highest part and version of yourself. So imagine, if you will, souls where you don't have a body. It's just the recognition of the divinity in the highest part of that soul. So the reason that people with autism have trouble making eye contact is because on the other side that they are still very much connected to, it's just soul to soul. There's no bodies. So there's no need to make eye contact because there's no eyes because there's no body. And it was also shown that the reason that they're so dysregulated by noise is very overwhelming to them because on the other side, it's so quiet and peaceful and there is no noise. So they're so highly evolved, they're still connected to the other side. So all of the sounds and the noises and the pageantry of humanity is incredibly overwhelming to them. Plus, they don't see us as bodies. They see our souls. But they're kind of like confused why the soul is covered up by something. So people that have autism are actually incredibly high vibration souls that have chosen to come into this life and to bring awareness through their autism and to help us prepare for the big energetic shift that we are going to go through. And because if not for them and the awareness that they bring, we would not know what we will end up needing. They are, if you will, divine Sherpas. What's a Sherpa? A Sherpa is an exceptionally skilled mountain climber that can help regular mountain climbers exceed or get to the top of Mount Everest. So they are divine Sherpas who have volunteered to come in and show us the way, even if we didn't know or understand what way we will be going in and what way we are going to be shown or why. So I hope that answers your question about autism, and if not, please comment down below. Now, we just have a few left. We have multiple personality disorder, stuttering, Munchhausen by proxy, parental attachment, vision impairment, chronic sore throats, and TMJ. And I think, oh God, an OCD. All right, I really want to get all of this in because this is such good information. So I'm really going to start booking it. So multiple personality disorder has also been renamed. It's called dissociative identity disorder, or DID. Now, this is what was shown to me about it. And I've actually spoken about it in other videos as well. I think it was in a video on walk-ins and body snatchers. And I'll link that down below if you want to go back and watch it. Multiple personality disorder is a trauma-induced disorder wherein the soul inhabiting the body steps out, therefore leaving the body available for an entity to step in. True DID, or dissociative identity disorder, is where the person has large chunks of their memory or large chunks of time missing because at that time that person has been inhabited, but not by an alternate personality. They've been inhabited by an alternate entity. So a person might have months of their life missing, and one day they get out of the shower and they're like, why the fuck do I have a tramp stamp on my back? I'm not a tramp. Maybe they were inhabited by a tramp stamp. Not by the tramp stamp, by the tramp. But while they were inhabited by that trampy entity, that entity took liberties with the body. So the alters, or the so-called alternate identities, are actually alternate entities. They are not alternate personalities that the person has developed as a defense mechanism, but they are alternate entities. Now, what was also shown to me is that depending on the energetic state that the person was in at the time that they were inhabited, that will determine the kind of entity that can step in. So, for example, you can have somebody that's a mouse. They don't talk up, they don't speak, they're very, very quiet. One of their so-called alters, which is, again, not an alternate personality, is an alternate identity, is someone that is very, very loud, very, very protective, and very, very aggressive. Why? Because they were in a lowered energetic state when they stepped out, and therefore their body was like a low-hanging fruit for any fucking entity to come in. Now, a very, very strong type A alpha entity, are they necessarily going to want to fight with another strong A type of person? Or another entity to fight to get into that body? No, they are probably just going to want to slip into the easiest body they can get into. That's why it can show up as somebody that is a very, very quiet demeanor would have a so-called alter identity, really being an alter entity, that's very, very strong and is going to protect them. So very frightened people open themselves up to stronger entities. And this is why it is assumed that different alters are defenses. It actually manifests this way without the soul spiritual component. This was shown to me that the way to treat it is by first addressing whatever the underlying experience was that led to the soul's disengagement in the first place. However, because the occurrence was usually so traumatizing that it led to them literally stepping out, parts of themselves will therefore remain underdeveloped. And thus, this person, they may then lack the necessary strength they will need to face the experiences even as an adult. They don't have the tools necessary in their toolbox to deal with the trauma. The trauma was so great that they had to get out of their bodies in the first place. They therefore didn't develop necessary tools to deal with it. So now, even as an adult, they're going to be stunted in some way. They still don't have the necessary tools. So how do you treat it? So it was shown to me that through slow desensitizing of the initial experience, can the person slowly come to terms with it. Once they have also done inner child healing, that will help them understand further that what happened to them was not their fault. And then through the alleviation of the guilt that they may associate with whatever happened to them, they may then start to develop a stronger sense of resilience that they can now start to face what actually happened to them. So I hope that answers your question about multiple personality disorder or DID. And if not, comment down below. Now, the next question was asked about stuttering. And stuttering is, I think it's kind of self-explanatory what it is. So let's talk about what was shown to me. So stuttering was shown to be a block in a person's throat chakra associated with trauma, prior to the age of 2 to 3 years of age, roughly. So it's an age where they still may be in the pre-verbal stage, and therefore it is an inability to speak the experience or the words to even say it. They've endured some sort of a trauma. They don't have the necessary words to assign meaning to what they have endured. Therefore, it's almost like the words get stuck in their throat and it can lead to stuttering. So the words literally get stuck in their mouth. It is a lack, therefore, of an integration between their verbal skills and the experience of a traumatic event. They can't speak about it because they didn't even have the words when it occurred to give meaning to it. Sometimes the way that memories are anchored, they can be anchored in through any number of things. It can be anchored in through a feeling, an emotion, a color, a smell. It can be the word. The word can be the anchor. So without the lack of the actual anchor, they may not even have the words to express what was done to them. So what do? Also, because they lack the words to say it, they probably still lack the awareness that is connected to it in their conscious mind. So what was shown to me that will help is somatic body work will help them release the sticky trauma that is associated with it. So I hope that answers your question about stuttering, and if not, please comment down below. Somatic body work is something that is becoming quite popular and quite big right now, quite good right now. You can definitely find a local somatic body work healer that will work with you if you yourself have stuttering, or if you perhaps even have a child that is suffering from it. Now the next one is, this was not asked, this actually came in when I was looking at something else, so I kind of had to add it. So this is either something called Munchhausen or Munchausen by proxy. Now Munchausen syndrome is where a person can have any number of mystery 3D ailments, but anytime they go to a doctor or a healthcare provider, they're completely okay. Munchausen by proxy is where a parent is going to perhaps constantly be complaining that their child is sick and needing medical care for their child, but the same thing will happen. That once the child receives a medical examination, they can't understand why the child is manifesting this way. So this is what was shown to me about it behind the veil. Now, Munchausen by proxy, this is where the parent is complaining about the child being sick, is caused by a person feeling invisible in their life or in many past lives. So this could be somebody that was a soldier in many wars, and they had died and nobody knew about it for years on end. They were just a body on the battlefield. No one came to grieve. No one came to leave flowers at their gravesite. So it's somebody that had died in past lives where there was no family members to even know or seemingly care. And that has left an indelible impression on the soul. So they come in determined to have their soul matter. But what activates it, when it's the by proxy version, is through the birth of their child. So this can be laying dormant in their system, and then they have a child and bam, suddenly it gets activated. And why does it get activated? It is triggered through the birth of the child, as that is a reawakening on a soul or subconscious level, because they now have a child, and with the birth of their own child, they cannot imagine how they themselves as a child, or they themselves as a soul, were not given proper attention, or how they had died without anybody knowing or caring. So the energetic wounding of that person runs so deep that the person has no incentive or will to change or let it go. So imagine, if you will, it's like a scar. It's a very elevated scar. And meanwhile, you might be looking at the person with the scar and you may be thinking like, why don't they get like corrective surgery for it? Or like laser surgery or something, I don't know. But to them, it's such a deep fundamental part of who they are, they don't even see the scar. It's too deeply rooted in them. It's too deeply ingrained. And it's also kind of like a scar that runs so deep that no matter how much time has passed, it is still visible. It's left an indelible impression on the soul. And as long as this person is a parent, the scar will be visible, which is why, this is wild, sometimes the disorder ends in death, where the parent actually kills their child. Now, this was actually shown to us, not as a reveal, because this is a real thing, but if you've ever seen the movie The Sixth Sense, where the little boy who sees dead people, he goes to a wake of, I think like a classmate, and he goes to her room, or the little girl who died, because he can see dead people, like kind of indicates, come, follow me, I want to show you something. And she takes him up to her room, and then she slips from under her bed a box to him. And he gives the box to the daddy of this deceased girl, and he's watching a video. And what is playing out on the video? It's where this little girl was sick, and she was playing with her dolls, and she was recording it. And the mother brings up her lunch, and it's shown, because again, she was recording it, the mother is poisoning her child. And she ends up killing her. I'm sorry, I have chills even just talking about it. It's too gruesome. So, let's go back. So the disorder sometimes will only end in the death of the child. Because now, again, it's energetic, high level of energetic dysfunction. Because now, at least, with the death of the child, that person will know what happened to their child because they killed them. So the by proxy part is where their child has now replaced them and are a substitute for themselves, in that they are making sure that this child that is now a substitute for themselves and their wounded inner child that was ignored is getting all the attention that they did not get. Now, similarly, why would somebody actually end up developing Munchausen on its own, not by proxy, is, for example, if they had a Munchausen by proxy parent and that they grew up only getting attention when they were sick. So now as an adult, they think the only way that they can get love, affection, and attention is by being sick. So I hope that answers any questions that you may or may not even have had about Munchausen or Munchausen by proxy. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is parental attachment. Now, here's the thing. Parental attachment is actually a normal thing. So I believe that this is a question about what would be considered beyond the scope of normal parental attachment. Because again, it's a normal thing that actually occurs. So this is where it is a more severe case of parental attachment. So this was shown to me as, this is an attachment, again, beyond the scope of what is so-called normal attachment. Now, this will usually occur in the formative years when a child is still very much connected to the other side. And it is a soul's remembrance of a caretaker going out one day, maybe going to work or going grocery shopping and never coming home. Because maybe that person got into a car accident. Or maybe they went postal. Who the fuck knows? But that caregiver in a previous incarnation did not end up coming home. And because it kicks in and is activated when we're still relatively young, it's when we're still very much connected to the other side. So it is a deep, indelible impression left through trauma, but across lifetimes. This is why, for some people, traditional therapy is not going to help, because the cause of what is the ailment, so to say, is not in that incarnation. So there's not going to be any association to it in it. You actually have to go back through multiple lifetimes to get to the root cause of it. This is where I'm going to direct you to an excellent book by Dr. Brian Weiss called Many Masters, Many Lives. Now, he is the forefront of people that have kind of done this past life regression work. And how did he first come to discover it? He had a client that had tremendous deep-seated like wounds that no matter how much therapy she was getting, nothing was making it go away. So he had thought perhaps this is connected to a trauma that she's not remembering. So he had hypnotized her to try to go back to the origin point and was actually taken into previous incarnations with her, where a lot of these, what was actually the origin point of the things that were ailing her in this particular incarnation. Again, traditional therapy is not going to work for everybody, but past life regression work may actually work. So past life regression will very much, will help tremendously with this, because otherwise it is without the remembrance of what the root cause is. And if you don't know what the cause is, you can't treat it. So it is only through validating the experiences on a soul level, again, here's that word, validating, not telling people, get over it. It's through the validation of their experiences on a soul level, and perhaps through past life regression work as well, that the person can begin to heal it. So I hope that answers your question about parental attachment, and if not, please comment down below. Now, the next question that had come up is vision impairment. And vision, I'm not sure I need to actually explain what this is. I guess it's where you have literally that, a vision impairment. So maybe you have like a really, really bad prescription and you need to wear, thick glasses, or I wear contact lenses. I have so-called vision disturbance. So let's see. Let's explore. So vision impairment was shown to me that it is a subconscious fear that the person cannot face or does not want to face, and that is then manifesting as a vision impairment, so that ultimately the person does not have to face their fear because of the visual impairment. Something scares me, I can't even see it. I can't even look at it because I have a vision impairment. So what was shown to me will help is talk therapy, may help with this, as well as keeping a dream journal as well, because as I've shared in other videos, when we are sleeping, our conscious mind doesn't put up as much resistance. So if you keep a dream journal by your bed, and when you wake up first thing in the morning, you're journaling exactly what you remember, you might actually be able to sift and sort through that and to see what is your subconscious mind trying to bring you, but that your conscious mind is resisting it. Because if your conscious mind is strong enough to create a vision impairment so that you can't see the things that are disturbing you, don't you think it is going to be strong enough to block the flow of information in as well? Hence the dream journal when you are in a lowered resistance state. Now, what was also shown to me is that positive affirmations may help, as well as making a bucket list of all of the known fears that you have, and then slowly starting to tackle them one by one. So write down every possible fear, conceivable fear you have. And then after you have thought about it, and that might within itself take some time because they're fears that you don't want to confront. But after you have done that, then putting it in some sort of a numerical order of what they are from least scary to most scary. And then once you have done that, start to confront or face those fears, again, in order from least scary to most scary, so that as you are facing some of the least scarier fears, you're starting to build up a sense of resilience and strength so that you can then start to face the stronger fears that you have. So I hope that answers your question about vision impairments, and if not, please comment down below. Okay, the next question was about chronic sore throats. Now, again, as I had shared with you in IBS, the throat and the stomach are very much connected. So with IBS, we were talking about the stomach. Now we're talking about the throat. Let's see how it relates and how it connects. So if somebody has a chronic sore throat, the body is trying to tell that person something, but they are not paying attention to it. So the way the body knows how to get the person's attention is through the throat. But why? Because their stomach is activated. But how many of us through the years have suppressed the message that our body is telling us? How many of us have a gut feeling, don't go to that place, don't hang out with that person, and we suppress it and we don't listen to it? So we have gotten really, really good at telling our stomach to shut the fuck up. What's going to then happen, because the stomach is connected to the throat, it's going to travel up into our throat. So, because the stomach and throat are always connected, anything that has to do with the stomach will affect the throat. So perhaps it is, this person is always constantly ignoring something, and whereby that the message is traveling up. I know it's redundant. My notes sometimes are. I guess my guides sometimes just really want me to get the point across. So the body, because here's why. The body doesn't lie. So pay attention to when the sore throat kicks in. What preceded it? Where were you? Who were you with? Slow the fuck down and start to think about it. Who did you see or where did you go? And that will tell you all you need to know. And then speaking about throats, through that experience, we can then also start to get more attuned by slowing down and listening to the wisdom that our throat, i.e. stomach, is teaching us. We can actually start to slow down and heed the calls that our stomach is saying, which will then no longer have the necessitation for the sore throat to actively kick in, because we're listening to it at the origin point, not the second step of it. Next question was about TMJ or jaw pain. I'm also going to add to it teeth grinding because I think it's very much connected. This was shown to me as unprocessed trauma or grief that the person does not want to process or doesn't want to deal with. So what do? Think about what they used to do back in the day before they had anesthesia. The person would drink massive amounts of alcohol. One person would be holding the arms. One person would be holding the legs. Excuse me. They would take something in their mouth and clamp down on it. So that way, when something was being amputated, they were not screaming out in pain. It's a clamping down or suppression. So, this is not wanting the grief to come up from the heart, and it causes because the person does not want to cry, or they do not want to be confronted with the grief, the trauma, or whatever it is, the uncomfortable feeling, so they clamp down to stop it. Now, this is what was shown to me. There is a Hawaiian meditation called Ho'oponopono, which will help a person who deals with TMA or jaw pain, even if it is played while they are sleeping, because they will absorb it on a subconscious level. Now, I will share with you what it is. It's not a substitute for playing it. I still recommend getting yourself some sort of a YouTube video that resonates that you can have playing maybe when you're in the shower or when you're sleeping, so you'll absorb it on a subconscious level. But this is what the words are. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Again, this is not a substitute. It's just to give you an idea of what the Ho'opono meditation is. And I actually have recommended this to my clients, and they have reported back that they have found it to be incredibly beneficial and helpful to them. So give that a go. Give it a try if you have TMJ, jaw pain, or perhaps even teeth grinding. Now, there was also a question next about Morgellons disease. I actually had to look this up. I was not familiar with Morgellons. What was shown to me is that it looks like at the surface, underneath the skin, but at the surface of the skin, it could look like fibers or threads, and it can even look like things are like permeating from the surface of the skin. So this was shown to me as a toxic buildup in the body, and that to heal the toxic buildup, I think it's still available. Every time I look for it, I can find it, even though it's by different people. Because the internet, they're trying to like scrub it of certain things. But there is a borax nanoparticle detox that can be done. And this will actually help with somebody that has Morgellons disease. Now, I'm also going to say, if you skip the other sections in which we discussed toxic buildup, I'm going to direct you back to those. And those are rashes and diabetes. And IBS, because that is also a toxic buildup in the body that it is starting to bleed through in the three-dimensional realm. Now, here's another way of looking at it. Imagine, if you will, there is a plate with sand. We've discussed this before, I'm sure, but there's a plate with sand, and then depending on the kind of music that is being played, different types of designs will be made according to the vibration. So classical music is going to cause a different vibration and therefore a different expression of it in the 3D than will gangster rap. So if you want to change what is the physical manifestation in your 3D world, You have to change the underlying energetic component to it. So again, that can be an actual physical toxic buildup, or it can also be a toxic buildup of toxic emotions, hanging out with toxic people. What are you consuming that can be toxic, visually, auditorily? Okay, so I hope that answers any questions that you have about Morgellons disease, and if not, please do comment down below. We're almost done. So here is Natalie Holloway, which I think is one of my best videos to date. Seriously, if you haven't seen it, please go back and watch it all the way through because the goodies are at the end. Here's an upcoming video that I'm probably going to do. I'm not going to say what it is because that will ruin the surprise and that will ruin the fun. We're really almost done here, and I'm quite pleased to say that. Here's another future video I'm probably going to do. Okay, so what do we have next? We have OCD, drug and alcohol addiction, and then the rise in autoimmune diseases, and then we are done. Let's see if we can get this done quickly. So OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. OCD, so that might first of all manifest as somebody that has to go back and lock their door 25 times because they don't think it's locked. Or they leave their house, they have to come back, they have to check that they turned off the stove. It can manifest in any, kind of like those ways, obsessive compulsive. Now, it was shown to me as a sexual suppression or guilt around sexuality. So the suppression of it leads to control issues, which will then manifest in obsessive compulsive behavior. So it is essentially a redirection of sexual energy directed to control as a whole. Now, this may be experienced by people that have BDSM fantasies, but who will not embrace it, so they end up suppressing it. So it is a lack of integration of all parts to a whole. Now, I have actually talked about this in a previous AMA. I'll find it and I'll link it down below. And this was where it came to embracing our shadow side. So some people, what they will do is they don't want to not have an integration of the parts of themselves that they can perceive to be dark or unlovable. So they will bring it in and they will overly identify with it. So that might be where it's like a woman who's perhaps really into like BDSM, but you're going to see her like going to the grocery store dressed in like full BDSM regalia. Or she is going to create her entire life around it where she's going to do it professionally and she's going to record it for all of the world to see. These are just like maybe some examples of it. Or it can be a person who likes to get tattoos and they're like, well, I guess I'm just that person who gets tattoos. I'm just going to go for it full time. I'm going to go big. I'm going to go big. Go big or go home. So they're going to shave their head and they're going to get tattoos that create an artificial hairline. They're going to tattoo their entire torso up until the point of like a neckline or up until the point of the sleeves. They're going to do the same thing to their legs. They're just going to go full. So those are people who do not want to not integrate certain parts of themselves. So what they'll do is they'll actually end up bringing in and integrating all the parts, but they overly identify with those so-called dark or fringe parts. They're not. They're all pieces of a puzzle. There is no such thing as dark or fringe, right? I mean, unless your thing is you're like a psychopathic murderer. That might be something that we should talk about. That's not what we're talking about here. So this is the opposite of the people that are overly embracing the so-called parts of themselves that are dark or unlovable. This is where they are completely denying it. They're like, these parts of myself make me feel so uncomfortable. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to deal with it. So it turns into a control issue which will then bleed into other components and elements in their life. So what was shown to me is that somatic body work or body movement or even breathing exercises can help with this, as will shadow work. It's another way of looking at it. It's a form of stagnant energy in your body. So through somatic body work or movement work or breath work, which will help keep everything moving, will help with this issue. So I hope that answers your question about OCD, and if not, please comment down below. Now the next one is, I link these two together, both drug and alcohol addiction. Now, this is what was shown to me. Again, please take it or leave it. There is no such thing as addiction. as it is a willful recommitment to self-destructive behavior. Therefore, this can connect to self-worth issues such as childhood trauma or sexual abuse. Now, why do I say there's no such thing as actual addiction? I'm referring to the people that are saying you can have a genetic predisposition to alcoholism. Now, why are they going to say that? Probably because there's alcoholism somewhere in the family. If there's alcoholism somewhere in the family, how is that going to manifest in the 3D? That can manifest as abuse in the home. It can manifest as sexual abuse. It can be verbal abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. It can be any form of abuse. So, and what do we know about people that endure abuse? They're not going out on a loud fucking speaker and announcing that they have abuse at home. They're really fucking good at hiding and suppressing that shit. So, other people on the outside looking in are not necessarily going to identify that there was abuse at the root cause of this next generation engaging in the so-called addiction. Not understanding that it's not an actual addiction, it's not a genetic predisposition to it. And if it is a genetic predisposition, understand that that is again what? That is the influence of what is going on a soul or energetic or a vibrational level. If you will, it's again the tone or the noise that is causing the sand to create a different shape in the three-dimensional world. But the actual addiction itself, there's no such thing as actual addiction, in my opinion. What it is a willful recommitment to self-destructive behavior. Now, how does this connect to the self-worth issues? Aha, I'm so glad you didn't ask. So again, it's childhood trauma or sexual abuse. Now, actual therapy can help, but this person must want to shift out of this idea or this concept that there's something wrong with them, or there's something wrong with my genes. It's a mindset, because that on its own will continue to compact their self-worth issues. Because now you're taking someone with self-worth issues, and now it's like, well, there's something wrong with my genes. There's something wrong with me. I'm genetically predisposed to drink. So it is actually better to work on empowering them. Now, what was shown to me that might actually help is karate or kung fu practices, or anything that has a strong disciplinary component to it. That can be incredibly beneficial for them. Now, these people may also be stuck energetically in their trauma and in a victim mindset, thus reinforcing a sense of powerlessness that they will experience. Now, they can also use this, they can also blame their lack of progress on their addiction. Again, this is somebody that has some sort of a self-worth issue. So maybe they feel like they're naturally gifted, they're an artist. But they're so scared of being rejected that they will never devote themselves or commit themselves to being an artist and creating art because they might be rejected. So they can always just not do what their soul feels called to do because they can blame it on their addiction. So this works with the self-worth issues, as they can't or won't try because they can blame it on their addiction. And then they don't have to face their potential failure. It was also shown to me that faith is an essential component in their healing, as well as spirituality and a connection to someone or something greater than themselves, such as God or the divine. Now, it is my understanding that people that go to AA, I think one of the tenets of it is that they do have to understand that there is a higher power than themselves. So it was shown to me as taking that, but amplifying it. And here's why. That also in their understanding that there's a greater power than themselves and something greater than themselves, for them to also come to understand or be presented with the option of understanding or seeing that a piece of the divine resides in they themselves. Divinity is already inside of them. So they need not do anything more than what they already do to have so-called meaning and value in their life. If this is someone that's scared of failure or rejection, That's okay. You don't have to necessarily pursue that because you're already perfect and divine the way that you are. So let's just clean you up. Let's create a environment in your body that is one where the divine can most comfortably reside. So for them to come to understand that any ideas of success that they have is not connected to their output in the three-dimensional world. And to encourage them to become clean because their body is the vessel and the house that the divine resides in. So it's really taking this idea of divinity, of God or God consciousness, and it is saying the divine is already inside of you. So let's just clean you up and get you into a place where you can best host the divine, because our bodies truly are temples. It is a temple where the divine resides. So I hope that it answers any questions that you have on drug or alcohol addiction, and if not, please comment down below. Now the last one, where I'm also going to end on this, you'll understand when we get to it. What is up with the rise in autoimmune diseases? Now, autoimmune diseases it's across the motherfucking board. It can be any number of things. Too many to even go into right now. But if you have an autoimmune disease, you know. So, this is what was shown to be about autoimmune diseases. All autoimmune diseases have one similar thing in common. What is it? It is where the body has turned on itself and it is attacking itself. Why would that be? Okay, so why is the body turning on itself and attacking itself? Why is there this huge exponential rise in autoimmune diseases in recent years? Because we are all living out of alignment. We are all living out of alignment. Autoimmune diseases are on the rise and will continue to be on the rise the more we continue to live out of alignment. I told you this alignment is going to come up time and again. And that more and more of us living in big cities, disconnected from nature, disconnected from communities, disconnected from God, will continue to manifest with symptoms of autoimmune diseases. This is not said like in a judgy kind of a way, but as a whole, society, maybe not like each individual person, but as a whole, we are devoid of values and meaning, and our bodies are trying so desperately to wake us up and get our attention. And they will continue to do so until we get back to living the way we did before the explosion of autoimmune diseases. So when did they start to be on the rise? In the 1970s. Why do they continue to get worse and worse and worse? Because as time goes on, modern day society and modern day life has continued to drive us into a way that is living completely out of alignment. So go back to the way that people had lived prior to like the 1970s. Whatever that means for you. I'm just the messenger, okay? I'm not like if you are a career woman and you don't want to be a stay-at-home mom, I totally get that. I respect that. I'm not saying like go back to being like a 1950s housewife. There are other ways that we can go back to living as we did back then. That's all I'm saying. Okay, smaller cities, grow our own food, spend more time with those we love, and more time communing with God. Now, here's the good news and why I wanted to end on this note. If this is an alignment issue and a vibration issue that is being manifested in the 3D world, guess what? We have control over this. We clean up our vibration, we clean up our alignment, and voila. Because again, everything on an energetic or vibrational level has a manifestation in the 3D world. We don't like the manifestation in our 3D world. Guess what we get to do? Change it. We are not trees. We are not rooted where we are. We don't like what's showing up for us. We get to change our vibration and alignment, and then everything that plays out around us starts to change. So again, I'm going to encourage you, as I do, as I end all of my videos, to stay in the high vibration. Because why? When you stay in the high vibration, high vibratory things start to manifest in your reality. If you have any of these things, I hope that the information shared herein, or if you know somebody that has them, has perhaps given you extra information or insight into how we can start to treat these things in a loving and compassionate way, perhaps with an energetic or vibrational way, which will then allow the physical manifestations in our 3D reality to change as well. As always, until next time, and forever, and every second in between, stay in the high vibration.